But very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs. I would just say this to people in Canada or Mexico: if they're going to build car plants, the people that are doing them are much better off building here, because we have the market. We're the market where they sell the most. And so I think it's going to be very exciting for the automobile companies.
So is there any room left for Canada and Mexico to make a deal before midnight?
No room left for Mexico or for Canada. No, the tariffs, they're all set. They go into effect tomorrow.
Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. We love to take a look at current events, and today we're going to be talking about something that's been in the news quite a bit lately, trade tensions between the U.S. and Canada. And
yeah.
I know you got an interesting article titled Canada-U.S. Trade Ford and Trudeau on Tariffs. So right away I'm thinking tariffs, trade wars.
Big topic.
Big topic. Ford, he's never one to shy away.
No, he's not.
From a bold statement. So this should be good. What can you tell us about the background here? Like, how did we get to this point where everyone's kind of, at each other's throats?
Well, to really understand where we are today, we really got to go back to the beginning of this whole trade dispute. The U.S. decided to impose tariffs, which are basically like taxes on imported goods.
Yeah.
And they targeted a whole bunch of Canadian products. And we're talking like a 25% tariff on goods, like a big chunk of their exports, and then 10% on their energy sector. So
right.
It was a pretty significant move.
Yeah. I mean, that's not insignificant. Like 25%, that's a
huge chunk of change.
Okay.
And then 10% on energy. Like you said, Canada's a big energy exporter, so that's got to hurt.
Absolutely. And obviously Canada wasn't just going to sit there and take it. Yep. So they retaliated pretty swiftly. They slapped their own 25% tariffs on about $30 billion worth of U.S. products.
Oh, so it's a classic tit for tat.
Exactly.
One action leads to a similar response from the other side.
Yep.
And the article mentions they've got even more tariffs just waiting in the wings, like ready to go.
Right. They've announced that there's another $125 billion worth of tariffs that they could implement.
Yeah.
If the U.S. doesn't back down. So it's a pretty high stakes game of economic chicken right now.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. They're not messing around. And speaking of not messing around, the article really emphasizes just how strong Premier Ford's stance has been on this whole thing. I mean, he's calling this an economic war and saying there will be zero compromise. Yeah, his rhetoric has been very forceful. He's really framed this as a battle for Canadian economic sovereignty. Like, they're not going to be pushed around.
Yeah, it's like, stand your ground.
Right.
We're not going to buy.
Exactly. And the U.S., they did offer this like 1 month tariff exemption on vehicles, but Ford's basically like, no, I don't want a temporary fix. I want all the tariffs gone.
Yeah, no half measures.
Right.
It's all or nothing. And there's this interesting point in the article where they mention that Ford seems to think that the recent drop in the U.S. stock market and his own threat to cut off electricity to U.S. border states, like he thinks that that's what got the White House's attention.
Yeah, it's a bold move for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it really highlights how interconnected those two economies are, especially when it comes to energy. So, whether or not that kind of pressure tactic will work in the long run is yet to be seen, but it definitely makes a statement.
So, hey, we're all tied together here.
Right.
So we've got this escalating trade war. We've got Canada holding firm. And then this whole thing about critical minerals pops up.
Yeah.
What are critical minerals and why are they suddenly so important in this whole mess?
So critical minerals, these are raw materials that are essential for a lot of industries, especially, high-tech manufacturing, renewable energy. We're talking about things like lithium, cobalt, rare earth elements. And Canada happens to have pretty significant deposits of these minerals. So it gives them, a potential advantage in this whole dispute.
I see. So they've kind of got this like ace up their sleeve.
Yeah, you could see it that way.
It's like, okay, if you want to play hardball, we've got some things that you need that we could, maybe hold back on.
And it's worth noting that a lot of countries right now are trying to diversify their sources of these critical minerals. So while Canada might have some leverage in the short term, this situation could also, push other countries to start looking for alternative suppliers. So it's not a simple equation.
Right. It's like this whole thing's a chess game with all these different moving pieces. And the article ends with this little tidbit about Trudeau and Trump having a phone call after all of Ford's, strong statements. Do you have any thoughts on where all of this is headed? Like, what's the end game here?
It's tough to say for sure. this trade dispute has implications not just for the U.S. and Canada, but potentially for the global economy as well.
Yeah.
So the outcome is going to depend on a really complex interplay of economic interests, political calculations, international relationships. There's a lot of factors at play.
Yeah, it's like a tangled web.
It really is.
And as much as we love to, have a crystal ball and predict the future,
Yeah,
I think this one's going to be a wait and see.
I think so too.
But it's definitely somebody to keep an eye on. So, for our listeners out there, I think this raises a lot of really interesting questions. Like, could critical minerals be the key to resolving this? Or is this just the tip of the iceberg? What other factors might come into play? It's fascinating to think about the potential ripple effects of this whole trade war. So thanks for taking the time to really break all of this down with us.
My pleasure.
This has been another Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.
See you then.
Bye.